strong focus on what I want.
How do we define ourselves as successful? And once we have a definition of what we, as individuals, think success is measured by, a gold standard by which we can hold ourselves accountable to, how do we get there? It's never a simple A to B for anybody, and cracking the code to becoming an achiever is often seen as this aloof, almost mystical endeavour. So many people have tried to bottle how to be successful in books like The Secret. Online personalities like Gary Vee wax lyrical on the path to greatness, and have made entire careers out of trying to help people reach their peak. Damien Chazelle has made an entire career out of it too. Every single one of his movies so far have had the theme of achieving success and the fallout that comes with trying to reach those lofty ambitions. Chazelle weaves the idea that getting what you want, what you really, really want, is never without struggle, sacrifice, pain, and even loss. When thinking about my own life and what I want to do with it, I think about Whiplash a lot. But I also think about Spider-Man 2 as well. Spider-Man 2 and Whiplash would make a fantastic double feature, and not just because it would be 4 straight hours of J.K. Simmons.
Were you rushing or were you dragging?
Head of an extraterrestrial in there, because if you do, you're the third guy this week.
There's no fucking Mars bar down there. What are you looking at?
You're fired.
Chief, the planetarium party.
Oh, right, you're unfired. I need you. Come here. I can still fucking see you, mini-me. Oh, here, get a shot of the mayor and his girlfriend. Wife.
These movies are very similar in a lot of ways, and they both tell parables about the fruits and dangers of trying to get what you want, or at least what you think you want. Our lead characters, Andrew Neiman and Peter Parker, have more in common than you might realise, and in many ways are challenged with the same problems, but their arcs across each movie diverge in a way as to give us 2 completely different yet equally useful perspectives on the price of success. So first, let's look at our lead characters, Peter Parker and Andrew Neiman.
Charlie Parker didn't know anybody until Joe Jonas threw a symbol at his head.
Did Bernoulli sleep before he found the curves of quickest descent?
They're both 2 boys at the cusp of becoming adults. They're both loners, the relationships that they do have are fraught, they think they know what they need to do with their lives, but there's just a slight tinge of uncertainty clouding it all. And that's making their lives hell. Their points of difference come from their circumstances and their wants. Neiman wants one thing, to be one of the greats, to hone his drumming abilities until he reaches perfection. And the odds are stacked against him, as the film implies more than once that he might not even be that talented to begin with.
Yo, things were hurting with Neiman on the kids. Come on, man.
He knows what he wants to do and how to get there, or at least thinks he does, so he rationalises that success is just a war of attrition. If he puts in the hours, and puts those hours above everything else, he'll get there. Peter, on the other hand, just wants to give up on that one thing that takes up all his attention, and that is of course his life as Spider-Man. Unlike Neiman, Peter is aware that he needs multiple plates to be spinning just right to be happy. He tries to work hard at college, he tries to work hard at his job, he resists the idea of being with Mary Jane at first. But we'll get to that. Peter wants to give up that one thing to do everything else. Peter wants to have his cake and eat it too. He doesn't have a plan to reach this perfect equilibrium between his life as Peter and his life as Spider-Man. He's just rushing headfirst into everything at 100 miles per hour, hoping it will all balance out. Both movies begin to apply the pressure as they zip towards the midpoint. Seriously, these movies are a masterclass in pacing. There's not an ounce of fat on either of them, and they both end exactly where they need to. Anyway, Neiman and Peter both discover that the path to success isn't working the way that they thought. We see a darker side to Neiman when he visits his cousins. Feeling inadequate because his drumming doesn't seem to be taken nearly as seriously as their college football, he outright questions the merits of revelling in what he feels is mediocrity. Here we find out the depths of which Neiman is prepared to go to be that great drummer.
I'd rather die drunk, broke at 34 and have people at a dinner table talk about me than live to be rich and sober at 90 and nobody remember who I was.
Neiman proves that he is just as willing to go as far as he claims in the most explosive moment of the movie, rushing to get to the stage on time no matter what the cost is. For Neiman, the biggest bump in the road comes in the form of his teacher, Terence Fletcher, realised in an infamous performance by J.K. Simmons. Fletcher is infamous across the entire school for his tough, no-nonsense attitude, but Neiman still has no idea what he's in for.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
The most interesting thing about Fletcher? He sees himself as a halfway success.
The truth is, Andrew, I never really had a Charlie Parker.
Despite all the blood, sweat and tears he put his class through to capture greatness, he's never achieved what he wanted, a student worthy of the greats he worships. Just as Neiman is driven beyond all rationale, so is Fletcher. Their relationship neatly kind of works in that way. Neiman wants to succeed and Fletcher seems like the kind of guy that's going to get him there, but his methods are questionable at best, highly manipulative at worst. Fletcher seems like a man of principles for all his faults, at least initially, but then we find out that he bullies someone out of the band not for being out of tune, but because he just, I don't know, doesn't like him very much. He deliberately lies about the death of Sean Casey, leaving out any mention of his suicide in favour of a car accident, as if he knows that his methods are beyond the pale. And yet he never apologises, never goes back on anything he says. Neiman's desire is tested in no greater or more powerful a form than Fletcher, and even when his attitude starts to rub off on him,
Because I'm the best player.
you just back off, bro?
Fuck off, John Utah. Turn my pages, bitch.
we can't help but root for Neiman, because now we know just how much he does want it. And then of course there's Fletcher's final lie, telling Neiman his band will be playing the studio setlist, only for him to find out at the last second that he's in for a crushing, potentially career-ruining embarrassment. But then as we all know, it kind of works out for Neiman. Did Fletcher do it because he knew that if he pushed Neiman just enough, he would get over himself and finally play the way he was always meant to? Or does he truly just revel in seeing people squirm? When he smiles satisfied at the very end, was this a surprise for him, or was it all part of the plan?
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Fletcher proves his point somewhat when his harsh words during the final scene act as the catalyst for Neiman playing the best he's ever played.
Yeah, I guess maybe you don't have it.
If this was just a one-dimensional, antagonistic mental relationship, then the audience would have no doubts as to whether or not the ends justify the means. But to any audience member sitting there with a dream similar to Neiman's, they'll be left scratching their head for years to come, wondering whether the success was worth the price. And Peter faces yet another father mentor figure becoming destroyed and irreversibly transformed into an unrecognisable evil. In the first movie, this was a reveal for Peter. Here, he knows what has become of Otto Octavius from the start. Before they've even begun to battle, he knows in the back of his mind there's likely only one way this will go down. Fighting the good fight is about to get even harder, and that's before Mary Jane reveals she's getting married, Harry disowns him, and Aunt May is about to lose her house. Peter wants to be able to do all the things he wants, but he can't. He wants relationships with the people around him, he wants to be able to have a career and not let anyone down. He doesn't feel like he's making a success out of his life because he can't do everything that he wants. So he zeroes in on his life as Peter Parker. He chooses to disregard the thing that he really should be doing for a shot at a successful life. To find love, make the grades, and get the job he wants. And a part of the film wants you to say, well, why the hell can't he have that? He does nothing but look out for everyone else first, he's constantly feeling the pressure of more and more problems mounting up. Nobody asked him to be Spider-Man. At a certain point, he has to question whether his problems are kind of his own fault in a way. Neiman, conversely, is also trying to have some semblance of a social life as he settles into Fletcher's ways. When things are going well for him, he even plucks up the courage to ask someone out, in a break from his singular, focused lifestyle. But I guess even Neiman isn't made of stone. For a little while it seems like he really could do both. A balanced life between drumming and seeing Nicole, but then the going gets tough again, and Neiman wastes no time dumping her.
And I'm not gonna be able to do that. And really, I'm just gonna start to resent you for even asking me to stop drumming.
This is probably one of his most inhuman moments in the entire film, the way he explains every single turn of their relationship when it hasn't even happened yet, and the final insult he delivers by agreeing to Nicole's thought to be hyperbolic appraisal of the situation.
Because I'm just some girl who doesn't know what she wants, and you have a path, and you're going to be great, and I'm going to be forgotten. You won't be able to give me the time of day because you have bigger things to pursue.
That's exactly my point.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
So Peter, who was struggling to get a grip on his powers due to the stress and strain of his current situation, has decided to give up being Spider-Man for good, and he's actually enjoying it. Peter is Spider-Man not because he wants to, but because he has to, and he's simply had enough. What follows is one of the best Spider-Man sequences ever put to film. We see a Peter Parker unburdened by responsibility. We see a Peter Parker giving up helping others to fix his grades, to smile a little more and to worry less. To be successful, the price is letting others hurt. Peter sees someone getting beaten up on the street and he chooses to ignore it. Peter later saves someone without the use of his powers, but also finds out that he could have saved even more people if he hadn't been so busy chugging hot dogs.
Am I not supposed to have what I want? What I need?
Peter realises that yes, he is meant to be Spider-Man, because he is the only one that can do the things that he can do. Even if it's at the expense of the things in his personal life that he desires, doing the right thing is what he really wants, and he needs to reclaim being Spider-Man before it's too late. So when Mary Jane makes one final plea to him, he chooses to let her down once again, except this time it's the difference between feeling like he has no choice to firmly believing this is the right choice. The movie ends as Peter resumes being Spider-Man, and probably a virgin forever. I'm kidding, obviously Dr. Octopus kidnaps Mary Jane, Peter regains his strength and he goes after him. Like I need to explain this part to you like you didn't wear out the VHS tapes back in 2004. Anyway, Peter takes on Otto Octavius, determined to stop at nothing to save anyone he puts in harm's way and get Mary Jane back. The train sequence is bursting with energy, tension and fun, but honestly, the final scene in Whiplash is one of my favourite scenes of all time. It's an absolute masterclass in editing, not only showing the audience how and where to cut to establish space and tension, but to satisfy story and character. We've been watching Neiman and Fletcher winding up the entire movie. We've seen Neiman break himself, we've seen Fletcher bully and manipulate, and this is where it all comes down to. Protagonist and antagonist locked in a battle to the death. No room for mistakes, no chance for a second try. It's nothing short of epic. Neiman gleefully gives it everything he's got, like he's been waiting to realise his dream his entire life. But there's someone else who of course shares Neiman's mantra.
Did Edison sleep before he turned on the light? Did Marconi sleep before he turned on the radio?
Dr. Otto Octavius has a vision as clear and as singular as Neiman, but he's also already happily married, a successful scientist in his own right, and he's well respected in the community. Unlike Neiman, he's proven himself already, but it still isn't enough.
I couldn't have miscalculated. It was working, wasn't it?
While the sentient arms do push Otto into full-blown obsession, desperately clinging to the notion that his life's work must work, let's not forget that he refused to shut down the machine. He tried to hurt Spider-Man to make sure it all continued. That was all him. The arms had nothing to do with it. They hadn't even activated at that point. That drive that leads to the darkest path was always there. And then you start to wonder, are the arms really sentient, or are they in his head? Is it all his doing? As an audience, are we merely shifting the blame? It's certainly more palatable to imagine Otto as a man that's had his choices taken away from him than someone who enables themselves into doing bad things. He sets all the events in motion. It's his fault for everything, but he doesn't blame himself when it comes time to deal with the aftermath. His drive is his coping method, and this is what pushes him over the edge into that obsession. Yes, Otto is convinced and is in a lot of ways pressured by the artificial intelligence in his arms, if we do subscribe to the idea that they are at least partially sentient, but only so far as they bring out the worst in him. They're ultimately symbolic of his dark need to succeed. They enable him to take the leap into darkness that already existed inside him, in much the same way Harvey Dent was always the man he ends up being by the end of The Dark Knight. It's just the trauma of these events that acts as a catalyst for them to take that leap. Otto frames his need to create success as being reason enough to do terrible things, in much the same way Neiman finds it acceptable to become aggressive and belittling to others, and to upset Nicole. Both of them become so set on this one goal, and they think if I can just get this one thing right in my life, and I devote everything to it, then it will make me whole. We clearly see him pay the price for his quest, but it is more clear cut to define what he is doing as wrong, of course, as he nearly destroys a city, kidnaps Mary Jane, and tries to kill Peter. Whereas what Neiman is fighting for is obviously far more internalised, and it's harder to say whether or not he pays the price. What makes Whiplash the masterpiece that it is that Neiman isn't necessarily punished for choosing to be completely self-serving, for chasing perfection at all costs, at least on the surface. There's a smile on his face at the end, but it could be interpreted any different number of ways. The same goes for the look on his father's face as he watches. Is he horrified at what his son has become in an effort to impress the man that mentally abused him? Is he proud? Has he seen in Neiman a drive that he never had? A drive that he perhaps wishes he had and never realised it until now? Fletcher broke him to get his Charlie Parker, and he gave Neiman what he wanted, but is it only because he has him under his spell that he's smiling? Is this the smile of someone indoctrinated and abused to become something that someone else wants? Or was this always his journey? Did he get what he wants? Will this be the thing that makes him whole when the performance is over and everybody goes home and the movie ends and we leave him? It seems odd for a movie to advocate that sometimes you shouldn't chase your dreams, but Spider-Man 2 is right to tell its audience that. Nothing is worth putting people in harm's way. The core of this movie is about responsibility, more so than any other Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man 2 is the hopeful Whiplash, resting on the best of what people can be. Spider-Man 2 is telling you that it's okay to want things and work hard for them, but it can cost the people around you and their well-being, and your obsession might break you, and that above all else, if it's between being kind and good to the people around you and getting the thing that you want, then you must always put them before your own needs.
It was my dream.
Sometimes, to do what's right, we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams.
This ideal is instilled in almost everyone, not just Peter Parker. We see it in Otto Octavius, we come to see it from everyone on that train, making the decision to keep Peter's secret rather than selling it to the papers. Even J. Jonah Jameson displays it.
I drove Spider-Man away. Spider-Man was a hero.
Realising for just a moment that selling headlines has cost honest people their champion who is there to save them.
I just couldn't see it.
If only for a few seconds.
He stole my suit! He's a menace to the entire city!
And that's not to say that Whiplash is wrong to go down the road that it does, rather that it shows a more cynical view of what people can become when pushed to their limits, and when they are faced with the idea that their dreams might not come to fruition. Whiplash slaps the audience awake and tells them that the road to getting what you want will always be bumpy and unpredictable, and how you choose to respond could turn everything ugly. And Mary Jane's mournful look that closes out Spider-Man 2 shows us that if you do get what you want, you'll have to spend the rest of your life holding on to it. So maybe be careful what you wish for, or at least be aware of the consequences. Conversely, we don't see what happens to Neiman after he plays the performance of a lifetime. Maybe it was all sunshine and roses afterwards, or maybe he's destined to die broke and alone at 30. But hey, at least people that never met him might talk about seeing him play around the dinner table for years to come. And that's worth something, right?
So, we didn't think we'd be doing this, but someone has actually donated $100, which is incredible.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Chike.
Honestly, that's awesome. You are, as we said in our Patreon video, literally keeping the lights on. So, no, but seriously, thank you very much. And,
yeah, we're just sort of in shock, aren't we?
Full Fat Videos is going to strange new places. Full Fat Videos just got upgraded, and along with that, we're upgrading our Patreon with new tiers and rewards just for you. We don't unfortunately monetize most of the videos on the channel because it has copyrighted content, so something like Patreon could really help us make Full Fat Videos self-sustaining, and it'll allow us to make better videos and better content for you. For just $1 a month, you'd be helping us out a great deal already, which is why we thank you at the end of every video. Not to mention you'd get exclusive access to Full Fat Milk Posting, a Facebook group where you can talk to us about movies, TV and games, as well as some memes. We like a bit of memes.
For $3, you'll get access to everything from the previous tiers, but you'll also get the chance to watch our videos one day early, as well as get access to exclusive scripts and bloopers.
For just $5 a month, you'll get access to everything from all the other tiers, as well as exclusive access to ask the questions for our monthly Q&As.
And that's not all. For just $10, you'll get access to all of the above, as well as an exclusive commentary track picked by you.
For $100, I mean, you'd be keeping the lights on, so we'd really appreciate it, and we'd probably thank you at the end of every video on camera. You'd be really helping us in any way, shape or form if you could consider contributing to our Patreon. We love making this stuff for you guys and we'd love to keep making more of it. So thank you, and thank you for watching. We're off to go make some more of that juicy content. We'll see you next time. Stay milky.